I'm Stacy Grinsfelder.
And I'm Daniel Cantor.
And you're listening to True Tales from Old Houses, the Mini-Sode. Well, hello, Daniel.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Mini-Sode. It's nice to be on the Mini-Sode. How's it going?
I feel like what are we just officially calling it the Maxi-Sodes now? Is that what we're doing?
I think we might as well.
Okay. On the Maxi-Sodes, I feel like that's sort of where I get my work attire on and I make sure my hair and makeup are just right. And then the Mini-Sode is a version of recording in pajamas.
Yeah. For me, today it's sawdust, but for good, exciting reason.
Oh, good. Can't wait to find out. But yeah, I was going to say this is all figurative, of course, because we do not wear our pajamas to record, although I'm not opposed.
You don't know. You don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know what you're wearing. Yeah.
No pants. But before we dive into the Mini-Sode.
Well, say it. Finish it up.
I want to offer a quick and genuine thank you to our Mini-Sode sponsors, who are Scott Seidler of the Window Course this season, as well as Sutherland Wells.
Thank you both for sponsoring the Mini-Sodes and for offering such great services and products. So sawdust, this sounds very much like project.
That is correct. So I'm really excited because I feel like I've been really, really disciplined since the cottage sold, which was only a week ago. But for the past few weeks of, knowing that it was going to be sold and clearing it out and bringing all the stuff back into my house, and my house, I feel like never actually really recovered from the staging that happened 2 months ago. So anyway, I've been really conscientious about do not dive into any kind of project, big or small, until we've cleaned, organized, basically put things away. And I feel like it's good enough that I can cross those things off the list right now. It's a never-ending process, of course. I feel like even in the course of just this podcast, I've mentioned organizing my basement probably every other episode and every other season. It's just constant. I never stop.
Well, self-improvement is ongoing, so I'm with you there.
Right. And getting more supplies is also ongoing and using up the old supplies. Anyway, so this to say, this morning I started cutting wood and nailing it to my walls. And that just feels huge.
So wait a minute. All right. I'm not clear on, this sounds sort of like a kindergarten project at this point. I started sawing wood and nailing it to the walls. What?
It's all popsicle sticks.
Elaborate, please.
Okay, so basically, one thing about kind of renovating the way I tend to renovate is that you end up with a lot of stuff to be constantly sort of shuffling around, particularly wood. And so my guest bedroom that for the past 4+ years has basically had canvas drop cloths, used canvas drop cloths, stapled to the wall as walls.
It sounds outdoorsy.
Oh, it is A, a total fire hazard, B, I think very gross. But yes, if you sort of squint at it right, it feels a little bit like camping, I don't know, people enjoy spending a night in there. Sure.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I got you off topic. Beadboard.
So much in the way as often you see like an old servant's quarters, which in fact the space was, they often will be walls, ceiling, everything, beadboard. And so I basically want to do that in this room, which is a lot of beadboard. So I've been, accumulating it for several years now. So I have a nice stack, which the annoying thing also about storing salvage materials for a long time is that at least 10 to 20% of this is going to end up in the trash. So you're just storing it. It's always the best to just get it off the shelf and onto the wall where it is going to live for the next, foreseeable future. So, I just sort of dove into that this morning.
So you had the beadboard, and I guess what I'm understanding by nailing things to the wall is you now have taken some of the beadboard that you've salvaged and you're putting it up. You're turning it into the room of your dreams, the guest room of your dreams.
Something like that. I think we're basically going to get through the pile I already have and then probably move on to something that feels a little more pressing. Also, this is literally because it rained today. So the real first order of business is some exterior work. I got to take advantage of the summer weather and all of that. But you need a rainy day indoor activity too. So this is mine for the moment.
Right.
And then I've just been doing a whole lot of dreaming and scheming and
Planning
changing
and
my mind. And yeah.
I'm sure that you'll let us in on all those plans when they gel.
Oh, I sure will. There might be an architect involved.
An architect. Okay, this is a big deal. I
I
mean, I
know.
feel like you're just blossoming before my eyes, Daniel.
Well, I have more money than I ever have. Let's be real. It hit my account this morning, so I'm like, ooh, we have to
Yes.
build or something.
You can at least go out to dinner, right?
Something like that. Yeah,
Go
yeah.
out to a really nice dinner, buy yourself something that you've wanted. Nothing too crazy, but to satisfy that little dopamine hit that you need
Sure.
from having some new money.
Is a puppy crazy?
No, I think that's perfect. Puppies, they're not difficult to take care of, real short term.
I agree. It's over before you know it.
It's a
Speaking of real short term projects, remember that time, what was it, about a year ago? You just sort of up and ripped out your entire sleeping porch windows and thus began.
Yes.
I know you mentioned, I think a couple weeks ago, that you met a contractor who you really like and you've seen his work. What has progressed since? And also, I want to know, like, what is actually going on with this sleeping porch?
What has happened? All right. So, yeah, I think it was about a year ago. Think it was almost this time last year, maybe in the fall. I have the sleeping porch off the primary bedroom, and it's always been a cobbled together situation. The sleeping porch itself was always there, but I don't know. I'm guessing it was enclosed with just shutters or something. This was a summer house. So I'm thinking there were shutters out there maybe a long time ago. They closed that all up for the winter and that was it. Maybe they slept out there in summer or just opened it up just for some airflow. But in the subsequent years, the pillars had changed that hold up the roof line. They had just grabbed some old storm windows from, not even from my house, I don't
Oh,
think. I can't
interesting.
figure out anything that matches my house whatsoever, and enclosed it in glass. And the way they did that created the perfect situation for rot. So then they had in turn wrapped all the sills in metal and you could just see the whole thing kind of crumbling under the metal.
Hmm.
I thought it would be fun, and it was. I'm not gonna lie, it was fun to take the metal off and see what was under there. And when I did, it was exactly what I expected. The
Hmm.
wood underneath the two central pillars, there's four in total, two on the corners. Well, there's two by the house that don't really count. Two on the corners and then two in the middle. And
Hmm.
underneath those, the wood was pretty much just paper. I mean, the metal was flexing. It wasn't anything. It wasn't very substantial, but it was flexing under the weight of all of that.
Could you tell if it was like actively leaking or just old rot that just never actually got fixed?
It was old rot that never got fixed, as far
Okay.
as I
Well,
can
that's
tell. There
good.
wasn't any dampness or mushiness to it. It
Oh,
was
good.
just papery. It was just really papery. I guess there was maybe a tad of moisture, but I think it wasn't from a leak. It was just from moisture kind of seeping into the wood and,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
staying there. That's what it felt like to me. So I ripped that all off and thought, okay, now I got to do something because I have no sill underneath these two pillars and I've got a whole roof line to support. So, to make a long story short, I shored up the pillars with new pieces of wood underneath them just to hold it up and thought, okay, I'm out of good weather. I'm going to have to deal with this next year. I
Hmm.
did some painting on the outside because it had never been painted. So at least it matched the house. It was totally lipstick on a pig, but I did freshen it up a little so that it looked like the house, hoping maybe that I could get by with not doing anything for a while. That did not prove to be true because during the winter time, those supports flexed and came away from the supports that I had created to hold all that in place. And I thought, all right, now we are in over my head
Hmm.
because the whole structure would have to be supported in order to remove the sill, which is 20 feet long and 2 inches thick. And I thought, I'm not qualified to do this. I don't feel like I can do this safely. So I told
No.
Andy, I said, we got to call a contractor to figure this out. So I did call the contractor. He came and discovered it, the same thing that I did. Basically, what's happening is that the two pillars on the corner are holding up the roof quite nicely. The two middle pillars aren't holding anything, and the whole wall is bowing out. So
Sure.
the project is to pull the wall back in, fix the supports for the center pillars, which go underneath the floor into the garage area below. So all of
Oh,
that has to
wow.
be sort of sistered together because that's all rotted. Or not rotted, I guess I should say. Parts of it are rotted enough that it's creating some flex there that
It
needs to
could
be
be
pulled back.
compromised, I think
It could
is
be
it's
compromised, yes.
compromised.
It could be compromised. And then in doing so and moving the wall, then we have to redo all the shingles on the outside for the not first time, not second time, but the third time.
Oh, great.
Yes, which I, of course, am pleased as punch about. But
Yeah.
the contractor is great. I met him. I had mentioned this before. I have seen several projects he's done around town. I toured a project that he did. One is one street over, one is a friend of mine. So I'm very familiar with the type of work and attention to detail. They work with old houses all the time. What I appreciated about the bid was that we really talked about the things that I could do and the things that they could do. It was a level playing field the whole time. I never once felt like, "Oh, well, are you sure you can do that, little lady?" Which I get sometimes from contractors.
Yeah.
you know, they completely understood that what I was capable of. So the entire project is they're going to reframe everything. Like I said, pull that wall back, reshingle, get it all to a level where I can put windows in again because I have
Nice.
the windows. I know windows. Windows, that's my jam. I know what I'm doing there. So they're going to bring it all back to that level. And then I guess we're kind of debating whether or not I'm doing the interior beadboard, which is just on a half wall, or
Mhm.
whether they'll finish it out. I don't really know. It's not going to be like a polished, finished space when it's done. It's going to be safe. It's
Mhm.
going to look good. It's going to be clean, but I'm not, styling it or doing furniture or anything like that. It's just purely brought back to function.
Nice.
Yeah, feeling good about it.
Yes. Because this is kind of one of those things that's lingered as like, we'll dive into that someday. But
Right, right.
you always know those things like there's gonna be stuff I don't want to deal with. And this is
This is one
that.
of those.
Yeah.
And I also see that, a lot of people have been asking me, they say, well, if you're still planning on selling the house, why are you spending money on stuff like this? That is the top question that drives me absolutely up a wall. First of all, it's my money, so I'm going to spend it how I see fit. But I also see this, I sound really mean, don't I? Do I sound rude?
Oh, I like it.
You like sassy me?
Well, I mean, and also, like, I very much get it. Most people at some point are going to sell their house. That doesn't mean you
Right.
just like stop caring for it.
Stop caring. Yeah. Well, and I see this as one of those projects that could snowball to the point where you'd have to tear that whole thing off. And I think that that's like the future of that sleeping porch if this work isn't done now. Somebody would just completely remove it and they would take that door out that leads there, turn it into a wall or add another window and it'd just be lost to history. And I feel like this is something that we can do now to keep that feature on the house. Is it important? Do we all have sleeping porches? Do we all need sleeping porches? No, absolutely not. It's important. It's important, I
Right.
think, to the history of the house, and it's important to me. So we're doing it.
I mean, my house didn't have a sleeping porch, but it did have actually a very similar kind of structure off of the kitchen. And it's, I mean, exactly what you said. Somebody just deferred and deferred and deferred and deferred to the point that I just decided to tear it completely off. And that's too bad.
I mean, what can you do? It really is too bad, but I understand. I understand where you were coming from, because to fix it now will cost a certain amount of money. To tear it off would cost less, but to fix it altogether, if I don't do it now, would cost
Right.
twice to three times as much by the time it's all said and done.
Right. And actually the biggest thing with that space was that it originally had tons of big beautiful windows. I've seen exactly one photo, but I can tell. And part of it was just that those were gone. They had replaced them with 3 little tiny vinyl windows. So I'm like, the structure is compromised. The windows are gone. Like, this is
Yeah, not worth it
just get
anymore.
rid of it. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, do you have a estimate on when this work will commence?
Yeah, actually, I was quite shocked because I wanted to know what the lead time was. I've been hearing just horror stories about, yeah, we can do it in a year or in 18 months or whatever. They see my job as fairly small. So once we hammer out all the details, I think they can do it in September or October, which
Oh, great.
was shocking to me. And I thought, this is great. They would like to do the project before the cold weather sets in. They don't want to push it to next winter, or they don't want to push it to next spring, which suits my purpose just perfectly because I'd like to get it buttoned up before then too.
Yeah. Oh, how exciting. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this sort of the last, like, kind of major, like, structural thing you have to deal with?
Well, there is one more that could be done. It's not terrible right now, but I think we have one more porch that maybe could be brought up a little bit, a few inches on one corner. It used to be part of a wraparound porch, but then it was enclosed, but the pitch of the porch stayed the same, so it's a little wonky.
It's just a little funky. Got it.
Yeah, so in a perfect world, maybe that could be brought up a few inches and maybe just the supports underneath would be changed a little bit. But yeah, I mean structurally we're good. I have some foundation work to do before the cold weather sets in, but those are things that I can do. It's just repointing stone. Nothing
Just some
structural.
repointing.
Yeah, just repoint. Well, I should say I don't have to pull stone out and put it back in.
Sure,
It's
sure,
really
sure.
just lime mortar, just repointing. So it's not highly structural or technical for that matter. So yeah,
Nice.
the envelope is pretty well sealed at this point.
Blake Hill House is all coming together while mine is all unraveling before my eyes.
True Tales from Old Houses is supported by the Window Course. The Window Course, created by Scott Seidler of the Craftsman blog, is a step-by-step, do-it-yourself program that will teach you everything you need to know to successfully restore your wood windows. It's self-paced, so you can go as fast or as slow as you need, and there are also several price points to fit your needs and budget.
Now is the perfect time to get ready to restore the windows at your house. We call it window season, I think. And the window course has all of the information you need all in one place.
And Scott is offering his students a special deal. If you sign up for the Lifetime Access Package or a training package, then you also get a free infrared paint remover, which is a $100 value.
The window course is also offered with a money-back guarantee, and Scott is offering True Tales from Old Houses listeners a special discount. So for 10% off, visit thewindowcourse.com and use the coupon code TrueTales.
True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Sutherland Wells. All of Sutherland Wells products are handcrafted in Providence, Rhode Island with the highest quality, sustainably grown tung oil. Tung oil, which is native to China, has been used for centuries as a durable finish for wood, metal, and stone.
And unlike polyurethane, tung oil finish penetrates the surface of the wood, which means that it flexes and contracts as conditions change. That makes it the perfect pre-finish or protectant for everything from fine furniture to window sash and sills.
I've been seeing an awful lot of Sutherland Wells products on Instagram, and it makes me happy to know that other people are finding them because I love them. I just did window maintenance, and I put Slicky Wicky in the jams. Great name, great product. Keeps those sashes going up and down smoothly. But if you're not working on windows, Sutherland Wells has an entire product line for whatever you need. You may be working on siding, hardwood floors, furniture restoration, cutting boards, you name it.
To learn more about the complete product line, visit Sutherland Wells, that's WELLES, sutherlandwells.com, and to save 10% on your first order, use the coupon code TrueTales.
All right, well, we just have a few more minutes, shockingly, and I'd love to hear about your trip to Michigan. I have a real soft spot for Michigan, and especially places on the lake, so I can't wait to hear about this.
Remind me what your soft spot for Michigan is.
Well, I like the UP, and my in-laws used to have a very, very rustic cabin, very rustic, like no indoor plumbing, anything like that. And they used to go there. I didn't ever go to that cabin in its heyday, but they had an opportunity to stay there. I guess it was 3 years ago and 4 years ago. And so we made the trek to the UP and stayed in this little in their cabin, their old cabin. They didn't own their share anymore, but we got to stay there. And I just fell in love with the lake and the quiet sand and lighthouses, just things that I don't see here where I live or that I didn't see out west. Very different. And I didn't know how much I would love it until I got there.
Right? Yeah. I also have a weird big soft spot for Michigan and I guess that region. So my dad's whole half of the family is from Chicago. And so I grew up going to Chicago at least like once a year. And then, so my aunt and uncle, I don't know, 30 years ago, bought this like little cute little house, not on the lake, near the lake, in this town called Sawyer. And they proceeded. So people are like, "Ooh, it's in your blood." It is not, but is one part of my family that is into the same house stuff that I am, and it's this aunt and uncle. So they renovated that house like 4 times over, eventually sold it, and sometime in the middle there, they acquired the neighboring property, which is like 15 acres, and it had this little, like, I think 1930s kind of schoolhouse on it.
Oh, cute.
They basically did like a spit and polish renovation on this cute little house, like just made it like comfortable and clean and fine. And so that's where we used to stay. And then maybe 10 years ago, maybe even longer, they sold the first house and essentially took the second house down, except that they kept like literally like the foundation and the floor joists is what remained. And everything else got taken down. And then they built this new house on top of a section of this old house. And it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I love it. It's one of those houses that's like, maybe I do really love new construction because it's like, it's just so lovely. And so it's always nice to go. I haven't been there in like 7 years. So it was really nice to go back and hang out, and the whole family was there. And then also in the time since I've been there, so this Michigan house is like their weekend summer kind of place, and they still have a house in Chicago too. And I don't really know what possessed them to do this, but they bought and renovated, and they're not really DIYers, they're more budgeted.
They bought and wrote checks. Is that what you're saying?
They've bought and I'm sure wrote tons of checks for what I just learned was a 10,000 square foot like Georgian manse.
wow.
It was a gorgeous house, like so beautiful and so stupid big. And
Wait, they did this now? At this stage in their life, they did this now?
this was probably maybe 10 to 15 years ago they bought that house, and they weren't there for a super long time, but they redid the entire thing, lived there for I don't know 5 years or something, maybe a little longer, doesn't matter. And then they sold it and bought the house directly next door, which is I think a modest like 3,500 square foot or so. It's still a big house. But this house, so I hadn't seen this house, so I got to go back to Chicago, and I stayed in the house and got the nice tour the next morning when it was light out. And it's a really weird house, Stacy. I don't know if you would like it or not. I don't think Brad would like this house.
I don't understand. What makes you say that? I like everything. Except when people ask me if I want to spend my money on something.
Sure. Well, this could be interesting. So this is an 1887, I think you said, Italianate.
I like it already.
It's a beautiful house. Oddly, it has a very similar kind of layout to my house. So it has the main section of the house, a back addition, and a side addition. And the side addition is just one huge living room. And that's my house. This is just a much grander version, basically. But the really interesting thing about this house is that it got a major renovation in the 1930s. And so at that time, they ripped out like quite a bit of the original detail, but a lot of it actually is still there. And then they added all of this like 30s stuff, but this was an area that had money. This is a very nice house, yada, yada. So it wasn't like the Depression era renovation that a lot of our houses went through just to create more bedrooms you could rent out or whatever. Like this was
Right.
a fine renovation, but just totally different style than kind of the original house. Very sort of 1930s streamlined, a little
Okay.
Bauhausy. It's kind of really cool. I like it.
That's interesting. So not what I would picture an Italianate looking like inside.
No, not really.
Okay. Huh. Even the staircase? Did the staircase remain?
I think that is the original staircase, which is cool. It spirals up like just one turn, but
That's
sort
so
of like
neat.
a. Sometimes you see it in like a Victorian row house. This is super not a row house, but that kind of curved
Interesting.
stair. And then I just really liked, the work they did to it. Like they are much more renovators than I tend to be. Granted, I've never worked on a 10,000 square foot Georgian mansion, but
No.
um,
And can I just say thank goodness because it actually does not sound appealing to me right now.
I think I would lose my mind. Well, and
Yeah.
honestly, they didn't. The thing they kept saying was like, we like this house a lot better than the last house. This
Yeah.
newer one that's like significantly smaller. They're like, that house was just so fancy. I felt like I had to like come down for dinner in my fur coat. Like it just did not kind of fit.
That's so funny. I love this idea of moving next door too because I have a neighbor now that has a really cute house and I'm like, I could go there, and
Yeah.
it'd be great. I just like move one box at a time. It'd probably take me 5 years, but I'd do it eventually.
Yeah, that's basically what they did. And so it's a very cool house. Like there's these weird little things you can sort of see. So like one of the bedrooms, they kept in the 30s, they kept the original hearth, like stone hearth, which was this really fancy, cool marble. But then they put a new mantle over it that's just basically this like kind of half round, tiered, very,
Oh,
very, very 1930s like plaster mantle.
interesting. I would picture sort of a marble surround on an Italianate. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm picturing as far as fireplaces go. But it's not that.
I'm sure it was originally, but
Okay.
they took it
Interesting.
out to modernize it. But now the modern stuff is 100 years old.
Right. And to be clear, this was not your aunt and uncle. This was the person who did this remodel in the 1930s. That's what you're saying.
Correct. Although their taste is very like contemporary, that's kind of where I get it too. And they're a little more liberal about like, we're going to take out this wall because this just is silly for 2024. And they have such great taste that I'm totally fine with it. They always make their homes so beautiful. So like I don't get upset in the way that I do with other people screwing up their old houses because they're not screwing them up. They're just changing them.
My in-laws are like that too. My father-in-law was an architect and they don't make a lot of changes. I mean, they practically live in a time warp house, which I love. I absolutely love prairie style, gorgeous house.
Oh,
But they
beautiful.
have made some changes over the years that honestly, I would have never known that they made the change unless they told me. They were so thoughtful and meticulous that they look like they've always been in the house. And some people are just really good at that. I admire that.
Yeah, and I can't pretend like this is that either. It's like it's a very contemporary kitchen. It's a beautiful kitchen. It functions super well. The space is gorgeous, but like it's a combination of two rooms. You can kind of tell like, but it works. Like they're just so good at it. So it works and it's fine. Super cool to see that new project and I
Oh,
mean
great.
they did the renovation in like 6 months or something insanely fast. It's just like, oh my God, I want your contractor.
I was thinking the other day that we just passed the 10-year mark here and I didn't even realize it. I mean, I knew it, but I've been slogging along so much in 2023 and 2024 that the anniversary passed and I didn't even think to mark it or celebrate it. Not even a thought from me. And
Yeah.
so to do something in 6 months that just feels out of the realm of possibility for me. I can't even imagine how that must be, but I am so happy for them. That's who we are. We're happy for them.
We are very happy for them. It's a gorgeous house. It was fun to see. They've owned it like a year and it's finished and so comfortable to be a guest at. So it was lovely. Meanwhile, I'm past 11 years and I'm talking about hiring an architect, maybe getting HVAC, redesigning my kitchen for the fourth time, and I'm finally finishing the second bedroom.
I suppose those are all conversations for another day because we're out of time.
Can't wait.
Thank you for listening to True Tales from Old Houses. Until next time.